Dad, Mom, I'm thinking of getting a divorce because, Michael has been racking up debt without telling me.
Suddenly, Michelle returned to our house with this startling news. But it's hard to believe that the serious and caring Michael, who always cherished the selfish Michelle, would take on debt without giving a reason. I couldn't believe it and refused Michelle's request to come back home. But then Henry came back and said,
What's the problem here? Helping each other in times of need is what family does.
eventually, I was persuaded and had no choice but to take Michelle back. Then one day, Olivia came to me with a tearful face and said,
Please divorce Dad.
What? What happened? According to Olivia, it seems that Henry had taken on debt for Michelle's sake. I confronted Henry, but he just made pitiful excuses. Despite Henry's claims that he did it out of love for me, Olivia's remark was the final straw.
But Dad told Auntie that he married Mom because of the money, but he actually doesn't like Mom.
Angered by what Henry and Michelle had done, I decided to take Olivia and run away. I am Rachel Mirror, a middle school teacher. I am 42 years old, and for 20 years, I had career-focused single life until my mid-30s. But I was never without male companionship. I've had a boyfriend 2 years my junior since high school, who is now my husband, Henry, working as an office worker. Sort of. Sort of, because Henry never sticks to any job for long. That's why he hasn't been able to keep a single job since becoming an adult. He's been at his current job for less than a year. I was fine being single, but that changed about 6 years ago. Having been abandoned by his parents for his inability to hold down a steady job, Henry came to me desperately.
Rachel, I can't live without you. Please marry me.
It was a pathetic proposal, but I couldn't just leave him after such a long relationship. However, even after deciding to marry, Henry's life didn't stabilize. So moving in with my parents was a condition of our marriage. The following year, our daughter Olivia was born. I returned to work soon after giving birth, intending to leave childcare to my mother. But then Henry decided to quit his job at that moment and declared, I'll take care of the child. My parents were speechless but conceded. Perhaps childcare is a parent's duty? And didn't interfere further. Henry turned out to be quite the doting dad, and now 5-year-old Olivia adores him. Unfortunately, Henry, who was once such a loving father, was to be led astray by a certain person. One evening, while spending time with my parents at home, we heard a voice from the entrance.
I'm home.
It was my sister, Michelle, entering our home. Michelle is 6 years younger than me, now 36 years old. She has been married for over a decade but has no children yet. Perhaps because she was a late child for our aging parents, she was much more spoiled than me. And she has retained a single lifestyle, constantly indulging in fun. I wonder what brought her back home today. As I pondered, Michelle dropped a bombshell.
Dad, Mom, I'm thinking of getting a divorce because Michael has secretly taken on debt.
Both parents looked incredulous. It's no wonder. A serious man like Michael, who had always cherished the capricious Michelle, taking on debt without explanation. As her sister, I thought it best not to interfere too much and just listen quietly, but something didn't sit right with me. Listening alongside me, Olivia asked Michelle with a puzzled look.
Aunt Michelle, what's a divorce? What's debt?
Olivia, you don't need to know about that. I quickly told our innocently curious Olivia, but Michelle answered regardless.
Why not, sis? Olivia will understand it eventually. Listen, Olivia, debt is a really bad thing. So, I'm divorcing Uncle Michael because he did something bad by going into debt.
If you have debt, you have to say goodbye? That's sad.
I wanted Michelle not to instill such ideas in Olivia, but I couldn't find the words. Taking advantage of our silence, Michelle continued to speak her mind.
See, I've been a stay-at-home wife all along, right? So, since I can't live on my own after the divorce, I guess it's okay if I stay here, right?
She proposed this suddenly, without consulting anyone. I couldn't keep silent anymore. Wait a minute, what are you saying? We have our own family here. You can't just decide that. I rejected Michelle's proposal outright. But just then, Henry came home from work and chimed in.
Why not? Helping each other in times of need is what family does.
Henry, who had quit his job around the time Olivia was born, had been hopping from job to job for the last 3 years, but somehow managed to work. Seeing her dad, Olivia immediately ran to him.
Ah, Daddy, welcome home.
I'm back, Olivia. It's lively today with Aunt Michelle here, isn't it? You must be happy with all the upcoming fun days, right?
Henry said, glancing at Michelle. Olivia happily replied,
Yes, Daddy.
Come on, Henry. Don't say things like that to Olivia.
Why? What's the problem with your sister coming back home?
Michelle jumped in, as if taking cues from Henry's words.
That's right, sis. Even Henry is welcoming me warmly. It's weird that you're the only one rejecting me, sis.
Yeah, that's weird, Mom.
It seemed like even Olivia was getting swept up in Henry and Michelle's pace. Looking for some support, I turned to my parents, but my dad, despite his disgruntled face, resignedly said,
Well, it can't be helped. At least while she's looking for a job.
Yeah, she has nowhere else to go. Let's let her stay.
Wow, thank you, Dad, Mom.
I thought it was too lenient of my parents, but couldn't argue further. Since childhood, whenever I tried to intervene, I was always told, You're the older sister, so just bear with it. I hoped she would find a job soon and leave. I tried to smooth things over, hoping to keep the peace. However, the situation took an incredibly unexpected turn. Michelle never looked for a job and became more of a permanent fixture in our house. Not only that, she would eat whatever was in the fridge and use my things without asking. My parents just watched and said nothing. Fed up, I suggested to Henry that maybe we should move out. But Henry wasn't keen on the idea, frowning and saying,
Why? Is it bothering you that much? Your sister staying with us for just a little while?
No, it's not that, but aren't you uncomfortable? Your sister-in-law living with us indefinitely, isn't it unsettling? I tried to be considerate in how I phrased it, but Henry got even more upset.
I didn't say that. Don't drag me into this.
He shouted and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. There was no need for him to be so angry. Tears came as I felt increasingly desolate. Since then, Henry stopped speaking to me and started sleeping in a different room. I thought about apologizing to at least clear the air, but lately, Henry has been coming home late every night after drinking, and I can't even find the right moment to speak to him. And Michelle has also been going out late at night recently. Maybe it's my imagination, but she seems to be dressing in more designer clothes than before. It doesn't seem like she's working at all. Does she even realize her situation? This can't be good for Michelle in the long run. I thought I should ask Michael about it and brought it up with my parents. But they said,
We've been concerned too and tried contacting Michael, but the call just won't go through.
We even went to his house, but it seems he's been away.
Michael is gone. Could it be that he disappeared because he couldn't handle his finances? But if that were the case, it would be strange for Michelle to be so carefree and out having fun. As I was deep in thought, Olivia suddenly approached me with a tearful face.
Mom, please divorce Dad.
What? What happened? I couldn't believe what Olivia just said. Trying to stay calm, I decided to ask her to explain. Olivia, calm down and tell Mom what happened, I asked gently, but Olivia dropped another bombshell.
Dad, like Uncle Michael, has debt. Aunt Michelle told me so.
What? Debt? Olivia, when did Aunt tell you that?
I heard Dad and Aunt Michelle talking about it in another room.
Lately, Henry has been spending a lot of time in another room. Were Michelle and Henry together there? What exactly is their relationship? I decided to ask one of them, but unfortunately, Olivia said they had both gone out. It's almost dinner time, and neither of them is here. When they get back, I'll confront them. I stayed up late waiting, but they didn't return. The next morning, I went into the room where Henry usually sleeps. I thought there might be some evidence of the debt. When I looked in the dresser, I found an open demand letter hidden away. It stated that a bank loan had been unpaid for months. The amount was a staggering $70,000. Why would Henry accumulate such a debt? Looking further, I found dozens of receipts at the back of the drawer, all from high-end brand stores. Henry isn't interested in branded goods, so why? Then it clicked when I saw the name of a store on some receipts. Lately, Michelle has been frequently wearing a luxury brand. I think it's from this store. In other words, Henry was doing it for the sake of Michelle. I was deep in thought when Henry and Michelle returned. I went to the entrance to confront Henry. Seeing my angry face, Henry looked like he wanted to ask, "What happened?" "Henry, what is this all about?" I said, holding out the demand letter. Henry started to look nervous.
When did you find that?
He stammered, his eyes darting around, probably thinking of an excuse. Then Michelle, as if to throw him a lifeline, joined in the conversation.
It's okay. There's a saying, debts make men more manly.
"You have some nerve, considering you left home because your husband was in debt." I shot back immediately, not letting Michelle get the upper hand. In an unusually tense atmosphere among the three adults, Olivia woke up, still groggy, and muttered something.
Daddy got into debt for Aunt Michelle, right?
What? What did you just say? Although her voice was soft and hard to hear, I definitely heard that Henry had incurred debt for Michelle. Their sudden pallor was clear evidence of this.
Olivia, what are you talking about? That's not true, is it?
Why would your dad go into debt for me?
The two scrambled to control the situation, but their panic only seemed to confirm their deceit. Still, Henry started making strained excuses.
Look, that demand letter. You see, it was for a car I was planning to buy. Rachel, you always wanted a car, right?
"Oh, so it was debt for me without consulting me? And how much were you planning to spend on this car that we couldn't afford?" In response to my question, sweat was profusely dripping down Mike's forehead. Yet, he desperately tried to talk his way out of it.
So, I wanted to surprise you, Rachel, make you happy by splurging on a foreign car. That's how much I love you. I was willing to stretch.
To say, "I love you" at this point, so insincerely. That was a phrase I had wanted to hear more naturally, and it somehow makes me angry. Yet, Olivia, tilting her head, questioned further.
But Daddy, you told Auntie that you married Mommy because She makes a lot of money, but that you actually don't like her.
Henry vehemently shook his head.
Olivia, what are you saying? That's not true.
No, I heard it clearly. Daddy said he loves Aunt Michelle.
Olivia's statement seemed to be the last straw. Putting together all that Olivia had said, it was clear Henry had gone into debt for Michelle. It was time to produce some evidence. Well, that explains all these receipts for branded goods. As I slammed the hidden receipts on the table, Henry's eyes widened in shock.
You found these?
These brands are what Michelle is wearing now, aren't they? Henry could only show frustration at my question. Maybe he thought their secret talks in the back room were unheard. But Olivia, even at 5 years old and going to the bathroom alone at night, must have overheard their conversations. Children's memory can be surprisingly accurate. Michelle, perhaps resigned or defiant, blurted out,
That's right. Henry married you because you're a teacher with a good income. But the person he truly loves is me. So he went into debt to buy me the things I love. Look closely. Some of these receipts are 3 years old.
Michelle's attitude suddenly became arrogant. It turned out their affair had been going on for 3 years. Furious, I snapped, Michelle, you have your own husband, yet you dare to have an affair with my husband. You think you can get away with this? My fists trembled with anger. But I couldn't continue this in front of Olivia. Michelle, thinking I would attack, clung to Henry. It's not something I wanted my daughter to see in her father. We can't raise Olivia in this environment. With that, I quickly packed our things and fled with Olivia. However, I had not admitted defeat. I was merely retreating temporarily, planning to get back at them someday. Later, I explained the situation to my school and moved into the dormitory for teachers. Though small and old, living there with Olivia has been fulfilling and fun. My colleagues, saying we all need help sometimes, took turns looking after Olivia, letting me feel a warmth I hadn't in a long time. Olivia, who still adores her dad, sometimes shows a lonely expression. Olivia, I'm sorry. Are you feeling lonely without Daddy?
No, I'm okay. Everyone here is nice, and it's fun.
Olivia said, managing a smile, though it wasn't a full smile. Making such a small child consider my feelings, I feel like I'm failing as a parent. Maybe instead of thinking about revenge, I should try talking again. I need to be calm for Olivia's sake. Then one day, while Olivia and I were out on a weekend, someone called out from behind us.
Rachel? Is that you, Rachel?
It was Michael. Michael, my parents have been trying to reach you, and everyone's been worried.
Ah, I'm sorry about that.
Michael explained, looking regretful. It turned out he went into debt because of Michelle. Despite having no money, Michelle had been recklessly buying designer goods with her credit card. Before he knew it, the amount had ballooned to several $100,000, and they couldn't make the payments. Yet Michelle had neglected to pay, leaving the debt unsettled. Unable to overlook this any longer, Michael felt he had no choice but to cover the payments himself. But Michelle, misunderstanding Michael's generosity, continued her expensive habits. As a result, Michael ended up in debt under his own name as he could no longer manage the repayments. So the debt was all made by Michelle? I asked why he hadn't intervened, but Michael said he couldn't bear to because he loved Michelle. However, as her spending continued, he couldn't stand it any longer.
I struggled with it, but it became too much, and I left Michelle. I even canceled my phone to cut off contact.
Hearing this made me feel terribly sorry for Michael as Michelle's sister. It seemed impossible to mend Michael and Michelle's relationship now. For all Michael had loved Michelle, I wanted to help settle things properly. It was all Michelle's fault. And now Michelle was clinging to Henry. Wait a minute. Why would Michelle get involved with Henry? A gold digger like Michelle might be under some misconception about Henry. That gave me an idea. I shared Michelle's current situation with Michael. Shocked by her affair with Henry, he agreed to help with my plan. Then I went back to my parents' house. I left Olivia with my parents and first checked our bedroom. Fortunately, it was untouched, so I started my plan. I pulled out something from the dresser drawer. Let's see what Michelle has to say about this. And I waited for Henry and Michelle to come home. They often went out late at night. Although my parents warned them that my leaving was their fault, they didn't listen. There was no need to be merciful to Henry anymore for Olivia's sake. Sure enough, Henry returned late at night, arm in arm with Michelle. It was a relief that Olivia was already asleep. Such behavior wasn't for a daughter to see. Seeing me, Henry dropped Michelle's arm in shock.
Rachel, why are you here?
Well, this is my parents' house, so it's not strange for me to be here, right?
But sis, you left angry at us, didn't you?
Michelle seemed completely at ease with her good relationship with Henry, showing no signs of guilt. Her words irritated me, so I immediately slammed the item on the desk. Taken aback by the force, Michelle stammered.
What? What is this all of a sudden?
Look closely, I said with a sly smile, showing over 50 of Henry's pay slips. Moreover, almost every 10 pay slips showed a different company name. It was clear evidence of how frequently Henry had changed jobs. Michelle, checking each one, panicked and said,
What is this? These salaries are so low. Where are the bonus details?
Of course there aren't any. Henry hasn't lasted more than a year at any job. Plus, he's so incompetent that he only gets entry-level wages whenever he manages to find new employment. As the reality dawned on Michelle, turning her face pale, Henry looked uncomfortable. Yet relentlessly, Michelle grabbed Henry by the collar and demanded,
What's this all about? You said you were a stable company employee. I've been asking for things because you said that. Why would you lie?
It was just as I thought. Michelle had turned to Henry, thinking his earnings were stable because she needed more than what Michael could provide. Henry probably bragged about making more than he did. In reality, Henry had never used his earnings for living expenses. He would withdraw his entire salary, stash it in his wallet, and boast in front of Michelle, I'm rich. I asked Henry, looking away from everyone. Henry, don't you feel sorry for Olivia? You haven't contributed a single penny to the house and just spoiled Michelle with everything.
Oh, well.
Henry seemed to feel self-loathing as he thought of Olivia. But I couldn't forgive him. Despite his efforts as a hands-on dad, the money he earned should have been for his family. You lack awareness as a father. Spending money on whatever you like and even creating debt. Do you have any idea how you'll pay it back? When I pressed him, Henry mumbled softly.
I thought maybe Rachel would be there if anything happened.
What? You were planning to dump your debts on me? I was flabbergasted. It turned out he was dating Michelle while relying on my earnings.
After all, Rachel has always been there to help me out.
Enough. I hate you, Henry. And you too, sis.
Frustrated with Henry's weak responses, Michelle suddenly yelled,
I don't need to stay here. Henry is broke, and my sister is annoying. So I'm going back to Michael.
Tears streamed down her face as she prepared to leave. Just then, a man walked in. It was Michael, who had been waiting outside. He glared at Michelle and said,
Michelle, sorry, but there's no place for you to come back to. I'm giving up the apartment.
What? What do you mean?
I managed to pay off the debts, but no matter how much I help, you just get carried away. So, I want to divorce quickly and cut ties.
Faced with the word divorce, Michelle's face turned pale. After over 10 years of reckless spending, and now an affair with her sister's husband, even someone as foolish as Michelle should realize her situation. Considering the economic trouble she caused Michael and her affair becoming known, it was clear she'd have to pay a substantial settlement. Panicking, Michelle clung to Michael, pleading in a cajoling tone.
Come on, Michael. I'm sorry for everything. Let's start over. I'll be serious about housework from now on.
It's such a pitiful sight to see my own sister behave like this. But no matter how much Michelle pleaded, there was no way Michael would agree. Instead, he pulled out a divorce paper he had prepared and demanded that Michelle sign it. However, Michelle didn't comply immediately and called for our parents' help.
Mom, Dad, please come here.
It's always been like this since she was little. Whenever there's a problem, she immediately turns to our parents. But when they showed up, their faces were full of disapproval.
What's the matter, Michelle? It's so loud in the middle of the night.
You'll wake Olivia with such a loud voice.
But Michael wants a divorce. If I'm thrown out of my current house, I have nowhere else to go. So I can stay here forever, right?
Michelle still thinks, after all these years, that our parents will do whatever she asks if she acts sweet enough. But even my father, who had always been soft on Michelle, now had a fierce look on his face.
We've heard the whole story, Michelle. Don't you feel any remorse for the trouble you've caused Michael, who has been so good to you?
That's right, Michelle. Maybe we were too indulgent with you, but you're old enough not to rely on being babied all the time.
Even my usually gentle mother seemed determined not to show any more leniency towards Michelle. Rejected by her parents, tears started to well up in Michelle's eyes. My father, no longer swayed by her tears, turned sternly to Henry.
And you, Henry, we've been too lenient with you, but no more. You don't contribute financially to the house, and you get involved with your wife's sister. A man like that is no longer welcome here. Divorce Rachel and get out.
Oh no!
Henry was visibly shaken by my father's intensity. Henry knew well that if he was kicked out of this house, he had nowhere to go. On top of that, he had debts, so finding a new place wouldn't be easy. Realizing his predicament, he suddenly began to apologize earnestly.
I'm so sorry. I'll work hard and pay off my debts quickly. Please just overlook this just this once.
But no one was willing to support Henry anymore. Amidst the commotion, perhaps woken up by the noise, Olivia came in. Henry stopped his apology and looked at Olivia, saying,
Olivia, you love Daddy, right? You'd be sad if I wasn't in this house anymore?
Olivia did not. She likely overheard everything that was being discussed. Suddenly, with an angry face, she shouted,
I'd be fine if Daddy wasn't here. I hate Daddy.
Olivia!
Henry, realizing even his daughter had turned against him, was deeply shocked. He became speechless and just slumped to the floor. Resigned to their fate, Michelle and Henry eventually agreed to the divorce, and Michael and I filed for compensation. Our parents told Michelle to repay Michael for all the money she had squandered, but Michael graciously declined to pursue it further. With the two of them leaving, Olivia and I could finally return to our home. After the divorce, Henry paid a lump sum in alimony to both Michael and me, increasing his debt. He briefly stayed at a friend's house because he couldn't find anywhere else due to his financial situation. Eventually, he managed to move into an apartment where the rent was just barely affordable. I know this because Michelle kept sending me messages about it. After her divorce, Michelle also had nowhere to live and had been moving from one friend's house to another. When she found out Henry was living alone, she quickly moved in with him. Despite blaming Henry for being dumped by Michael, she insisted he do something about it and has been staying there ever since. Even though I have no interest in keeping up with these updates, she keeps sending them to me. Henry doesn't have any money, yet she expects him to take responsibility. It seems she's there simply because she has nowhere else to go. Just as I was thinking this, Henry called me.
Rachel, help me. I want to cut ties with Michelle, but she won't leave me alone. If I'm not careful, she even steals money from my wallet. What should I do?
Henry came to me in tears, and I dismissed him irritably. Well, isn't that nice? Even an unreliable man like you has someone who depends on you. I'm busy, so bye. I quickly said what I wanted and hung up the phone. I could hear him saying, "Wait just a minute," as I hung up, but I completely ignored it. My parents also said they want nothing to do with anything related to Michelle anymore. Of course, I feel the same way. Now, I'm living happily at my parents' house with Olivia. Since I work as a teacher while living at home, maybe I didn't really need to take alimony from the penniless Henry. But the money I received from Henry is being used as important child support for Olivia. I actually wanted to completely cut ties if we divorced, so I decided not to receive monthly child support. Even though he's a poor excuse for a man, to Olivia, he is still her father. So I had him pay everything up front to fulfill his responsibility as a father in the end. Since the divorce, Michael has been living at his parents' house. His parents apparently disliked Michelle from the start and are relieved their son is rid of an unwanted wife. We still keep in touch with Michael and his parents due to our past family connections. Today is Olivia's 6th birthday. We're planning a big celebration at our home. We've invited local friends and, as an apology for the trouble with Michelle, Michael and his parents too. Next year, Olivia will start elementary school, and she says she has something important she wants to share. So she'll announce it at the party. Looking forward to what Olivia would say, she stood in front of everyone with a sheet of paper on the day.
Everyone, listen. I'm going to read a composition Olivia wrote.
Everyone fell silent instantly. Olivia opened her sheet of paper and began to read confidently.
I'm going to be a great schooler soon, and I've thought about what I want to be when I grow up. I love my mom so much. So, when I grow up, I want to be a school teacher just like her.
This was Olivia's first composition. I was moved to tears by her words. After she finished reading, everyone clapped loudly, and Olivia bashfully bowed. My mom, seeing me tear up, put her hand on my shoulder and said,
Olivia is growing up well, watching you as her role model.
Her words filled me with immense joy. Even though her father is gone, I'm sure Olivia will grow up well. Feeling reassured by my mother's words, I felt a lightness in my heart. Life and parenting will surely have many challenges ahead, but I'm committed to living strongly as a mother with Olivia and supported by those around us.